to be a writer is to be confused most of the time. I'm going to tell you exactly what I do that takes the confusion out of it. A lot of my clients, book coaching and ghostwriting clients, they write. They actually write for themselves. Maybe they're movie writers or they're journalists or something like that, but they're familiar with the process of writing, but somehow they can't write a book because writing is confusing. To be a writer is to be confused most of the time, period. That's what it is. So get comfortable with that. So how do you then write a book, an actual book, if the job description is to be confused and overwhelmed? By the way, writing is confusing because there are a bazillion, technical term here, a bazillion decisions that you can make every step of the way. Where do you start your book? What is your book even about? What is the arc that you're taking the reader on? Right? So these are all decisions that need to be made. What are the different beats? How are you taking them on this journey? What are you teaching them along the way? How are you teaching these things so that they don't feel overwhelmed, that they actually understand the concepts and the nuances of what you're communicating? There is a real skill associated with sharing information and then having that information actually be received, because you can share all the information you want, but if they're not receiving it, if you are not making it digestible for them, if you're not building bridges for your audience to actually hear and understand what it is you're trying to communicate with them, and if you're a leader, some kind of a coach or a speaker, you have a methodology that you're trying to teach them, right? So you got to get them to a point where they're understanding and learning and able to implement the methodology that you're teaching them. So how do you do that? Right? So these are all of the decisions that go into making writing one of the most confusing things that you can be doing. Like, I mean, have you tried writing a keynote talk or a TED talk or I don't know, an article? It's all confusing at every level. And then writing a book is a whole nother level because it is such a big undertaking. It's such a huge kind of like a project, right? So that journey then that you're taking the reader on from beginning to end becomes so much more involved. And then you get into the chapters. Where does your chapter begin? What do you share in each chapter? What are the stories you're telling? What are the quotes you're sharing? What's the teaching that you're sharing? What's the takeaway that they're taking? And then what else makes writing confusing is all of the decisions you make in the actual writing, in the craft of it. How are you formulating those sentences? What types of words and structures are you using? All of these things make writing so overwhelming. My clients come to me often after a decade of trying to write a book, and it's just not working. They just have a bunch of notes. Maybe they don't even have a bunch of notes. They just have a bunch of ideas inside their head. They can't even get it out onto the page because that editor in their head is so loud every time they sit down to write. So I'm going to tell you exactly what I do that takes the confusion out of it, right? I am a ghostwriter for celebrities. What that means is, I got something in my eye. What that means is I can't afford to have writer's block, right? So because when someone pays you a bunch of money to write their book, you better freaking write their book, right? So I can't afford to have writer's block. So there are there's strategies that I use that kind of get rid of writer's block, and those are the strategies I use with my clients, and then they don't have writer's block. It's very powerful. So I'm going to tell you exactly what I do that gets rid of the writer's block, because to counter confusion, you got to create clarity, right? So you got to create clarity. How do we create clarity? Number one, take that editor out of your head and lock that bitch up inside a closet somewhere. Lock that door, pat it so you don't hear her or him kicking and screaming. You don't need that shit when you're writing. Okay, so that editor needs to freaking go. I'll give you an analogy. A painter, in order to paint a mural or a painting, needs paint, right? So then they take the paint, put it on a palette, and then pick up a brush, pick up a little bit of paint, put it on the canvas. Easy peasy. A sculptor needs clay, right? So they plop a bunch of clay in front of him, start molding it. Easy peasy. A writer needs words. So in the beginning, when you start writing, all you need to do, all you have to do, right, is generate words. Because a writer needs words, right? That is your clay. That is your, it's your paint. Without it, there's no writing, there's no book, there's no article, there's nothing, right? So you got to generate the clay. You got to generate the words. Here's how you generate the words with the editor in the closet. Don't try to write your book. That's your first step. Don't try to write your book. Just dump your words. So what I do with my clients, you're welcome to take this technique, this methodology, and run with it, use it to get your book written, okay? So what I do with my clients is we have 3 phases of writing. And the first phase is literally an extraction phase. It's the phase in which we generate words. Do I care what these words sound like? No. Do I care if the grammar makes sense? No. Do I care if the stories are cohesive? No. I am just generating words. I want to know, what is it that you're trying to communicate in your book? A lot of book coaches out there, anytime I meet a book coach, I'm curious about their methodology. I'm always asking them, okay, so how do you work with your clients? How do you make sure that their book actually gets written, right? How do you make sure of that? How can you guarantee that? And I'm always surprised at their methodology, because a lot of coaches will try to get you locked into your book concept and your big idea right away. So that approach is a little bit different than my methodology. What I like to do is I like to start with an exploration and an excavation phase, right? Because I know that there are stuff inside your head that you have been trying to communicate for a long time, and you don't know what it even is that you're trying to communicate, right? So you have ideas, you have fragmented ideas, but you don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. So our job is to excavate and understand, right? So we create a document, and I want you to do this. If you're trying to write a book, do this, okay? So you create a document that is organized, very organized, but not as a book. What does that mean? That means every title idea you've ever had goes over here. The themes you want to cover go over here. The storyline of events, the timeline of events as it happened goes over here. If there's any research, right, articles that you want to include, all the research with links goes over here. All the quotes that you've written down on pieces of paper, saved on your phone, one day you're going to include them in your book, one day you're going to do something with it, all the quotes go over here, right? The stories that you want to tell go over here. So every single thing, including pictures, if there's documents that need to be included, everything gets cataloged, right? So what happens, and it doesn't matter, by the way, which order, you go into. It's a very fluid exercise over here. It's a very fluid practice to this creating this document. All you're trying to do is dump everything that's inside of you onto this page. You're going to end up with a 50, 60, 80, 100 page document. And that's amazing. This document is gold. It's absolute gold. You're going to refer back to it for years to come. Now, several things happen as you're creating this document. You're actually going to discover your methodology, your philosophy on a deeper level. When I work with clients, I'm asking them questions. They're answering these questions, and I'm literally typing in real time into this document and organizing in real time. So you're going to gain more clarity about what it is you're actually sharing. You are going to feel momentum building up because there's no editor in the back of your head telling you, oh, this is right, this isn't wrong. No, none of that, because this document is literally a brain dump, right? There's no editing happening here. It can be fragments, it can be words, it can be just bullet points. It's to get everything inside you out onto the page. So that's number one. Another thing that happens with my clients as we're doing this extraction phase, they gain so much clarity about what it is they actually do and what it is they actually share with people, that their business starts to pick up. A lot of times my clients go back to their websites and redo their website copies. If they're speakers, they'll go back to their keynote talks and redo their keynote talks, because now they have so much more clarity about what it is that they actually want to say. The other thing that happens as during this extraction phase is we discover very often that there's not one book that wants to be written. There's actually 4 different books, and you've been trying to cram all of your ideas and all of your philosophies, all this stuff. You've been trying to literally jam everything into this one book, and it's not one book. Maybe there's a book about the specific event that took place. Maybe there is another book about your methodology, your process in business that you're establishing, as your thing, right? And then maybe there's a workbook that goes along with that. Maybe there is a deck of cards. Maybe there is, on the side of all of this, a children's book series, right? So we discover what all of the different books are that want to be written. Then we pick the one. We go into phase 2 with the one that you have the most amount of fuel for, that is most relevant to your life and to your business right now. So you pick that one book, and we take that into phase 2. What is phase 2? Phase 2 is when we envision the actual book. Because as you know, anything that's created in the world is created twice. First in your imagination, then in the real world. So if you want to write a book that is impactful, whatever you want it to do in the world, you gotta envision it. So we literally start phase 2 with that in mind. Okay, what do you want the impact of your book to be? Right? How do you want people to receive it? What do you want? What is the transformation that you want your reader to go through? Right? So we gotta create clarity around this so that we know the journey that we gotta take the reader on. And then we create an outline for your book based on what it is that you want your reader to experience. Oh, okay. So this book is split into 3 parts. part 1 explores this, part 2 explores this, part 3 explores this, and then there's these specific chapters in each part because they have to learn these 5 skills, in each section, right? And then, so while we were creating the clothing line, the outline of your book, now here's the amazing thing that happens. We've created in that first phase an 80, 90, 100-page document of words, of your words, your stories, your timeline, your quotes, your research, all of the stuff, that the themes, everything that you want to cover, right? We have that document. So now we go through the document and we literally start distributing. Okay, so this story goes into chapter 3. It's going to be supported by this research piece and these quotes and this kind of exercise that I developed in my business. And that's going to like teach them the tools. And we do that with every chapter. So now when we go into phase 3, the actual writing of the book writes itself, because you're not starting your book, wondering, oh, what is this book about? Where do I begin? How do I tell this? No questions. You're not asking any questions. Every chapter that you start to write is not a blank page. It's literally 5 pages of notes. So now all you have to do is organize all of these notes. A lot of these stories are written in your own words anyways, right? So they are stories that you've been telling. You have clarity about what you're communicating. So all you have to do is take all of that and make it cohesive in one chapter. It's so fast. It's so easy. That writing part, phase 3, happens so quickly. I have clients who write 1 or 2 chapters a week, and within just like a month or 2, sometimes 3, their book is done. It's written, because we did the heavy lifting in the front end. We did it in phase 1 and in phase 2, right? There's actually 3 phases for writing your book to eliminate confusion, create clarity, and build momentum. It is so powerful, you guys. It's so powerful. So take this. I'm telling you exactly how I do it, right? I've been a professional writer for over a decade. I coach people on how to write books, and literally this is the methodology. This is the process that I use, and it eliminates writer's block. It eliminates all of those needless questions. And then the editor, can be locked up until after phase 3, because phase 4 is the editing phase. So then you can open the closet door, let the editor out, and go to work with the editing. There you go. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions about the process, you can email me at info@ellieshoja.com. You can also book a time on my calendar at meetwithellie.com. And send this to someone who needs this message. And contact me if you have any questions. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.